Together, we will make America great again.
RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back. Yes, my friends, it's time for another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you're having a lovely day. Hope you had a great weekend. Happy birthday to President Trump. Happy 250 to the United States of America. And happy peace deal to the Middle East. Most everybody is pretty excited about the fact that the war is officially over, and we're going to be engaging in a whole new era of peace, tranquility, economic stability. Most importantly, not killing people with bombs. However, not everybody is as excited about it as you might expect them to be. I'll give you one guess as to who might not be excited about this peace deal, but we will certainly address it. There is also a major scandal brewing at the New York Times. Journalist, I use that in quotations, Maggie Haberman, may have discovered or been given secret recordings from inside the Trump Situation Room, which would, of course, be a major, major security breach. And, in case you didn't know, Michelle Obama has a penis. So go ahead and sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn, because we're going to be right back after this.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus Versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
All right, please do me a favor. Check out the information in the description below for my sponsor, redpillnews.petclub247.com. And there are a whole bunch of other sponsors down there that you guys might be able to find useful as well. We also have another very special sponsor of the program, my friends over here at Rumble. Let me just say, I'm sure you guys are well acquainted with crypto. You might hear a lot about crypto, but there's one thing that a lot of people don't tend to think about, and that's the fact that crypto was created so that you, the person, could actually own and control your own money. Remember back in 2008 after the financial crisis? Well, that's when Bitcoin was created. It was made as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding on to your money, delaying transfers, limiting access to it, it puts you directly in control. So if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you might have understood what I mean when I'm talking about this. But now if you fast forward to today, many people have heard about crypto, but some people think it's still complicated to get started. But it couldn't be further from the truth. This is why I actually love Rumble Wallet, because it takes all of the complexity out of getting into crypto and makes it very simple. You can choose what you want to use. You can use Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, even digital gold backed by real gold. It is not complicated to set up. It connects directly to your Rumble account and then directly to MoonPay. So you can use your credit card, debit card, your bank account, and be up and running in just a couple of minutes. And then, of course, once you're set up, you can use it to support your favorite creators on Rumble, be it me or somebody else directly. So if you do this right now, scan that QR code on screen or just click the link in the description below the video. You'll be able to download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set that up, tap buy, and you're in the game. And in just a few minutes, you go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. Thank you so much to Rumble, and thank you to everyone who supports this program. All right, guys. Well, there is so much happening, and of course, we're going to talk about most of it. Now, last week, we learned that the brother of Karen Bass was joining the same lawsuit that Spencer Pratt and many other residents of the Pacific Palisades were actually joining as well to sue not only the city of Los Angeles, but also the state of California. Well, Spencer confirmed late yesterday, I believe, that he and Karen Bass's brother are actually directly working together. And right now, the victims of the Palisades fire are just going into the discovery phase of their lawsuit. Over the next couple of weeks, a lot of information is scheduled to come out. Now, what we have here is one of the lawyers working for the plaintiffs, that would be the residents of the Palisades, and he says we are just getting started. Documents from both the city of Los Angeles and the state of California are due within weeks in response to our initial discovery requests. And yes, we have asked for all of Karen Bass's text messages between the fire chief, the LADWP emergency manager, LAFD, LAPD, and more. We sent a litigation hold letter to the city while the fire was still burning, so destruction of any of those texts would be spoliation of evidence. Now, good thinking on their behalf to send that preservation letter out so early on before the fires had even been put out. I can only imagine what other messages Karen Bass might have been sending back and forth, especially when you remember that one particular recorded phone call where she was speaking with one of her aides about something that was going to be going on. Of course, this is before the fires even began. So definitely looking forward to seeing what Spencer and all of the others have in store for Karen Bass in the state of California. Colonel Towner has just rated the stream. Thank you so much to the Colonel's Corner. If you guys in the audience here on Red Pill News are not subscribed to Colonel Towner, please do me a favor. Make sure that you go over there and subscribe to her as well. She is a scholar and, of course, a military genius, and I always love the conversations that we've had with her in the past here on this program. Thank you so much to Roxanne. Now, continuing on from this story, there was a lot of sports taking place over the weekend. You guys know I'm not a big sports guy, but there's really a couple of instances of these events that I need to talk about. First of all, there is a major discrepancy between a couple of these things. First of all, one of the more heartwarming aspects of the sport that we saw this weekend was all of the foreign visitors coming to the United States for the FIFA games. Now, at the stadium where a game was held this weekend, Japanese visitors stayed behind so that they could clean up after this World Cup match. It just goes to show you that the people of Japan are really wonderful, conscientious, and very clean. A lot of other people coming from various parts of the world visiting the United States for the very first time saw the best aspects of the United States. They were very impressed with how clean everything was, how widespread everything is. They're just blown away by the amount of land that we have here in the United States. But then at the same time that the Japanese are cleaning up an American stadium after this World Cup game, people in the city of New York decided to destroy New York City once again. Now, this was happening for days and days and days, and that was because the New York Knicks were in their final games, some sort of playoffs for basketball. Again, I'm not really clear on exactly what those games were about, but I think that it had something to do with the NBA championships. So you have these really two opposing pictures of these Japanese foreigners coming to the United States and picking up after themselves. And then you have this very different image of Americans in their own country, quite literally destroying property, setting buses on fire, and beating people up, throwing crap all over the place. Let me just show you right here. an example. Well, first of all, I mean, you guys have seen Japan before. This is them celebrating the match. Notice what you don't see everywhere. You don't see homeless people. You don't see trash. You don't see human excrement. And you don't see anybody lighting things on fire or even starting fights. It's like all of these strangers come together and they're very excited to show their spirit and all of the happiness they have for this match. Here they are. Here they are cleaning up trash. Can you imagine Americans cleaning up trash in their own stadium? I mean, I personally, if I'm walking out, I always pick up trash, okay? That's just who I am. I walk the dogs at night, I pick up trash. I live in suburbia, and I am constantly shocked that people will drive through my neighborhood and throw their takeout on the side of the road. Like, there's no sidewalks, there's no public trash cans. Like, you're not supposed to just throw litter all over the place. What kind of animals throw trash all over the ground? Well, the same kind of animals that would set buses on fire in New York City because the New York Knicks clinched their first title in 53 years. Now, nobody got off easy on this. Well, certainly some people didn't get off easy. There was almost 70 arrests. There were quite a few people who were actually physically hurt. And also, over here on X, Nick Sorter posted these videos. Now, none of these people work on this bus. None of these people work on this bus. None of these people are supposed to be on the bus. But it's a school bus, and you've got people climbing all over it. And then in another video, you've got people setting that exact same bus on fire. Now, the police did end up coming out. Of course they did, because, you know, you've got scenes like this, just malice and devastation. Like, they've smashed in the windows. Looks like this is before they actually set the bus on fire, because a little bit later on, or maybe it was a different bus, I don't know. Now, these are school buses, but of course they were not taking children to school. They were just being used to shuttle people around. I wonder if that's the last time the city of New York will allow for people to do that. Apparently, a teenager was also shot. Here is another bus. And, like, the driver is in the bus. And, like, you've just got this moron kicking the door in, trying to rip the door open, smashing the glass. Everybody's crowding around him, yelling, saying, woo. Now, I also do have to wonder how many of these people are actually Americans and how many of them are just like your average retard who might live in New York and not know anything about how to take care of themselves. Not to say that a lot of people who live in New York are retards, but there are plenty of them, because I know there's plenty of them everywhere. So, yeah. Oh, and here is the bus on fire. Oh, yeah. Super cool, right? Why didn't the bus driver just drive? Because there were people surrounding the bus, Joan. There was nowhere to go. Like, you've got a group of people, you know, maybe one of us might have just driven over those people, but not everybody would have done that. Yeah, this is not cool. This is, like, it looks really bad for America, in my opinion. Anyways, I wanted to say thank you to the Japanese who visited our country and who had the respect to pick up after themselves. But F you to the American citizens and to the foreigners who were there for the New York Knicks game, who tore the city apart. Now, there was also, of course, the UFC fight.
And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?
There was the UFC fight on the lawn of the White House with the claw covering things up, making sure if rain did come that nobody was going to get wet, or at least not that wet. And this guy does the Mohap moment right in front of the entire crowd. I really wish I would have been able to get like a reaction of the people in the crowd, but we actually do apparently have a reaction from President Trump. Apparently, when the statement was made, the man's name is Josh Hockett. He defeated Derek Lewis in the second round in his fight. Apparently, President Trump flashed a smile and kind of looked around, kind of like, I know what he's talking about there. I know what he's talking about. Certainly he didn't say, oh, that was wrong. You shouldn't say that. No, you shouldn't say Michelle Obama has a penis. But, yeah, he seemed to be a good sport about it, and it seemed like the rest of the crowd was pretty good sports about it as well. Now, of course, this day of remembrance and fun and celebration on President Trump's birthday in front of the White House, this was not going to go off without a hitch, although mostly it did. But that's not for lack of trying by the mainstream media and, yes, even the Weather Channel, the losers at the Weather Channel. They had initially reported that there was going to be massive rain and thunderstorms, and that the mosquitoes and the gnats were going to be so bad that people were not going to want to stick around. So this was exactly what they forecast. On top of the storm risk, brutal DC humidity is driving a triple-digit heat index alongside massive swarms of mosquitoes and gnats that fighters will have to do battle with inside the cage. While the venue's massive 92-foot overhang will keep the octagon dry, a single lightning strike within 8 miles will trigger an automatic 30-minute freeze on the entire event. Now, UFC Freedom 250, they claimed, was facing chaotic weather, 60% chance of thunderstorms, heavy downpours, and wind gusts up to 34 miles per hour, which they thought might delay the fights. On top of the brutal storm risk, DC humidity was driving that triple-digit heat index, and my God, massive swarms of mosquitoes and gnats, lordy be. Well, the White House responded, and they said, hang on, where is the actual quote? Hold on, I gotta look at the actual tweet here. The response was brilliant. Okay, so Rapid Response 47 said, this event is about celebrating America's unmatched greatness after 250 years, which apparently doesn't sit well with this friendless loser who wrote this bullshit clickbait headline. Rain or shine, we're celebrating our great country no matter what. God bless America. And yes, there were motocross bikes doing jumps and flips. There was a falconer with a bald eagle that he sent out over the crowd. But I want you to take a look at this, because there is a distinct possibility that the good weather they had at the White House yesterday might not have been natural. So first of all, there actually were storms that were predicted to go over Washington, D.C., but if you take a look right here, here are 2 different weather radar readouts from yesterday. I tried to see if I could find a video of this, but I had to pay like a subscription to go to the Weather Channel and do that. I was not going to do it. I got screenshots. We'll show you the screenshots. So you can see here, the storm basically split in 2 and went on either the north and the south end of Washington, D.C., just perfectly swept over the area of Washington, D.C., and went north and went south. So this entire beltway in the middle was left dry and without any rain. So, you know, this is the conspiracy theorist in me, but I'm starting to wonder if perhaps they didn't use a couple of Jewish space lasers or whatnot to make sure that there was going to be no rain right above here. Or, of course, this could be like Moses parting the Red Sea and it was a miracle. Either way, however you want to look at it, this, I believe, is what was meant to happen. So congratulations once again on the White House and President Trump for putting on an incredible event. You know, I don't think since Teddy Roosevelt inviting professional boxers to the White House has anything like this ever happened. Anyways, let us continue here. Hillary Clinton was not happy about this event. Hillary Clinton posted a bitter take about America's 250 celebration on Twitter, and of course the internet. Oh, here is that eagle. Let's look at the eagle.
Your electric meter is charging
Let me
you
just
for
get
power
past
you
this.
never used. And according to some engineers, that's exactly...
Okay. America, America. So majestic, so majestic. But of course, Hillary Clinton is not majestic. She said, remember, during today's literal cage match on the White House grounds, no matter what, it's not his house, it's our house. Get a hat, coaster, or sticker to support groups and candidates who will respect the form and the function of the people's house. But I'm sure you guys are aware that when Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton lived in the White House, it wasn't exactly sacred territory. First of all, Bill Clinton was getting BJs in the Oval Office from his intern, Monica Lewinsky. And when Hillary and Clinton and Bill Clinton left the White House, they like stole a bunch of furniture, okay? Like they had to actually bring stuff back. They had to, I think they actually had to pay money. There was apparently some vandalism. A bunch of people have told stories about the bad behavior of the Clintons, stealing the drapes, stealing china. Oh, Jim Burchett says they literally rented out the Lincoln bedroom. And don't forget Bill's activity in the Oval Office that I just mentioned. That vandalism that went on when you left was also well documented. Tom Fitton says, woman who stole White House furniture has something to say about our house. And Buzz Patterson says, of course, Buzz would know, ma'am, as the Air Force officer who carried the nuclear football for your husband in the White House, I spent 2 years inside that people's house with you. Remember me? I remember you. You lecture us daily about respecting the institution, while the man I protected, your husband, lost the nuclear codes, treated the military like an afterthought, and had sex in the Oval Office, BJ's in the Oval. Classy. Of all the human beings on the face of this planet, and we are giving you the benefit of the doubt, because she could be a lizard person, you are the least qualified to comment about anything, much less decorum. The White House belongs to the people, yes, which is why they elected a fighter, not another polished grifter who'd rather rip off poor kids in Haiti than actually lead. Keep clutching your Chardonnay bottles, bitch. America's moving on. Oh, and it continues. Brian Hegseth says, your replies are shut off, of course, but no one degraded the Oval Office of the White House more than your husband. Republicans, I'm going to sit this one out. A hat is as close as you will ever get to returning to the White House. Yes, Hillary Clinton is so bitter. And there's a whole bunch more. You guys should probably check them out. All right. Now, right before the event commenced, a fake, I don't know how to describe this really. It was like some kind of op began to discredit the Trump family and Eric in particular. So one of the announcers at the event, his account on X briefly posted what was allegedly a conversation between he and Eric, and then it was very quickly deleted. And so, of course, people got screenshots and video of it being on their timelines. And what a lot of people haven't clued into is apparently there was also a crypto like shitcoin that was posted right after that and then also deleted. Now, the individual Eric Cormier, the commentator who had allegedly posted this conversation, he did reply to the outrage and said, are people really this stupid? And actually came out later and said that his account was hacked. Eric, for his part, said, I never had this conversation with Eric Cormier, and we've never even spoken. So this is fake. It must be AI or something like that. I can't tell if it's AI. I don't know the provenance of these screenshots, but ultimately, in the screenshots, Eric Trump is asking Eric Cormier whether or not any of the players are getting betted on and if they're handicapped because he wants to place a bet. And Eric is like, I am offended that you would even ask this. So here is the actual post. And Daniel Cormier is his name. Daniel Cormier says, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for bringing this to the fight. However, I refuse to stay silent. The UFC is a sport that I am deeply passionate about, and I will not tolerate this type of insider behavior. Shame on anyone trying to ruin this beautiful event. And from the messages, it looks like, he had never spoken with Eric before, and Eric confirmed that. He said, I'd never spoken with Eric before. And, of course, Mr. Cormier also said, I've never also spoken with Eric Trump. He said, this is completely fake. I've never reached out to Daniel. And then Daniel, Eric also posted, we are aware of the fake AI-generated screenshots being circulated online. I've never spoken to Daniel. He has since deleted the post. Daniel said, are people really this dumb? Eric told the Wall Street Journal, that is absolutely not me. I didn't even know who this guy was. This is some kind of AI spoof. This is crazy. It could also very easily be a series of messages that were sent between two accounts that were then mocked up to look like Daniel Cormier and Eric Trump. Eric Trump tells me that he just spoke to Cormier at the UFC fight at the White House, and the veteran fighter, Trump says, claimed he didn't put it out and that it was a fake. Okay, so that's really all we have to go on, and I can't believe that Eric would be that slimy. But this is perfectly the type of op that you would expect to see before an event like this, to try and draw attention away from it and to make people lose faith in the possibility that we are truly moving away from corruption such as this. Now, the other big news of the weekend is that an official U.S.-Iran peace agreement was reached, and apparently the White House was hoping to have it signed yesterday before the event at the White House. We don't have the full text of this agreement, but it was worked out between Iran, President Trump, and the United States, and the Prime Minister of Pakistan. So the Prime Minister of Pakistan had posted about it. President Trump posted about it. President Trump said that the strait was now open. Everything was cool. Everybody go back to business as usual. There will be a paper signing on June 19th in Switzerland. That'll be this Friday. And, of course, this is now like the 20th time that we've gotten to the point of peace and been told that a deal was imminent, and then it was derailed by Israel striking either Iran or Lebanon or something like that. But now it would appear that this one is real, and I think it's rather special because it took place actually on President Trump's birthday. What a great birthday. Now, shortly after this deal was announced, Israel did it again. They once again hit Beirut, Lebanon, and President Trump made a public statement speaking once again to his contact at Axios, and telling him that he was basically effing pissed at Bibi and that Bibi is a child and he needs to get his shit together because nothing is going to stop this. Why did Bibi have to do an effing attack? I was so pissed off. I let him know. He has no effing judgment. I let him know that. And, of course, the Pakistani Prime Minister later confirmed that even despite that strike, the peace deal was still on. Both sides have agreed. And, of course, this means a non-nuclear Iran, and they have said yes to everything that the United States has made note that they need them to agree with. The deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Congratulations to all. I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously herein authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade. Ships of the world, start your engines, let the oil flow. President Donald J. Trump. Now, we will come back to several pieces of this story, but before we do, although we haven't seen the official text of the actual deal, The Iranians have made several comments online. A lot of talking heads on social media, including Marjorie Taylor Greene and a number of other critics of President Trump, and actually many from the Israel lobby. They have also made a lot of public comments about this. It's funny because now the Israel lobby and Marjorie Taylor Greene are in agreement on how upset they are about this deal. But here, J.D. Vance did a couple of interviews specifying exactly what the terms of this deal are. One of the things that did come out was that there was going to be a $300 billion reconstruction fund. Now, let's hear it from J.D.
Walk through some of this. The Iranians are saying that they're going to have access to a $300 billion reconstruction fund. True or false?
Well, Ed, that's the sort of thing they could have access to, funded by the Gulf Coast Coalition, so long as they honor their end of the obligation. I think that one of the things you're going to see, Ed, and people have to be skeptical of this, is that the hardliners in the Iranian system will overemphasize the benefits that Iran gets while underemphasizing all the things that they have to concede and all the things they have to provide in order to get these benefits. So we absolutely are open to the Gulf Coast countries investing in the reconstruction of Iran, but only if Iran ends their nuclear program, ends their enriched stockpile of material, and is really open to an inspections and enforcement regime that gives the American people confidence they're never going to have a nuclear weapon. So I think the dance you're going to see, Ed, which is going to be interesting, is the Iranian media, especially the hardline media, they're going to talk a lot about what they get without talking about what they give. It's important for all of us to correct that record.
Okay, so the terms of the $300 billion deal are what I wanted to focus on there, because even though JD has made this statement, even though it's been said on multiple occasions since the deal was announced, people like MTG are presenting it as if the United States is just giving Iran $300 billion, meaning that it's a boondoggle for the American taxpayer. The Israeli lobby is also essentially saying much the same thing, that this deal is no different than the deal that Obama gave them. But it's very, very different. As JD said there, what the $300 billion deal consists of is a series of investment vehicles from the other Gulf nations. This is not U.S. taxpayer money that is going in to rebuild Iran. Much like rebuilding the Gaza Strip, the Gulf and Middle Eastern countries, they're the ones who are actually doing that so that they have foreign investment in Gaza, so that Israel has a much lower likelihood of coming in and just blowing all that shit up. Because it's one thing when it's just the Palestinians. What are they going to do? They're just Palestinians. It's not like they have the superior weapons capabilities that the Israelis have. But the same thing can now be said for Iran. If these Gulf nations and Middle Eastern nations come in and they invest in Iran, with Iran, they create an economic interdependence, and there is also infrastructure owned by foreign nations inside Iran. Again, it gives pause to Israel to come in and just blow that stuff up again, because not only is Iran and these other countries going to have bilateral protection agreements, but there is also security agreements between the United States and Qatar and the UAE and all of these nations that will actually be doing the investment there. So this is not the United States coming in and just handing a $300 billion check to Iran, despite what you may have heard from some random person online. Now, once again, here is JD discussing the finer points of the nuclear aspect of this deal, and then also the Strait of Hormuz, which a lot of this has been hinging on. You know, they've been saying that the strait's not open for all of this time. But for some reason, oil continues to be delivered. And of course, the naval blockade for the United States has been making sure that ships are going through. So it seems like, you know, the strait was actually maybe never closed.
Yeah, Gail, as you know, sometimes with these agreements, there are some diplomatic protocols, some technical things to work out, but we plan to release the full text this week. We want the American people to see it, but we've also seen, of course, some misreporting about what's actually in the agreement. We've seen some accurate reporting about what's in the agreement. I think the most important thing for the American people to appreciate is that what this agreement does is really twofold. twofold. On the one hand, it ensures that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon while simultaneously opening the Strait of Hormuz. You already see oil prices from a high of $126 a barrel down to about $80 a barrel today. That's a lot of progress. But it also, Gail, fundamentally extends a hand to Iran and says, look, if you guys are willing to honor your obligations, if you're willing to allow real inspections of your nuclear program, then we will welcome you back into the world economy. I think what the President of the United States wants to do is turn over a leaf of 47 years of a failed relationship between the United States and Iran, but that requires the Iranians to actually honor it their end of the bargain. So when people say that billions of dollars of assets will be released, that's not true. What is true is that Iran will have a much better and much more prosperous future if they meet the obligations they make in this agreement. We'll, of course, see. That's one of the things we're going to work out in the technical talks that will follow the official signing on Friday.
All right. So like I've been saying, President Trump wants peace with Iran. Peace with Iran means peace for the Middle East. That means all of the nations in the Middle East will no longer have to worry about anybody coming and blowing them up or putting the security of their people at risk. And we won't have to have a situation like this ever again. 47 years of this threat of terror attacks and funding of terror and Islamic extremism, all of that is going by the wayside. We are going to be entering the golden age, not only for the United States of America, but also for the people of the Middle East as well. Now, Barack Hussein Obama, the pot calling the kettle black, of course, he's got his own thoughts about this Iran deal. His Iran deal was famously bad. He sent pallets of cash to the Iranians. And, of course, he put them on a road to have a nuclear weapon. Now, of course, a nuclear Iran was good not only for Israel, but it was also good for the Central Intelligence Agency, for MI6, for any foreign nation that needed a boogeyman now and into the future. And it made sure that there would always be something to fight about. Because if you've got something to fight about, then you've got something for your people to die about. And you've also got something to tax them about. And you've also got something to take their money about in any way that you want. So taking all of these things off the table when you've got nothing but peace and you've got nothing but inter-cooperation, you've got nothing but diplomacy, what do you have time for? Well, you have time to develop your nations. You have time to bring your people out of poverty. You have time to create friendships and bonds that can last a lifetime. Now, what Surter had said, let's see if they sue him for exposing Big Mike now. No, they're not going to, because if they did, that would open the Obamas up to discovery. They would have to prove that Michelle Obama isn't a man if they want to sue him for calling her a man. And they are not going to be able to do that. They're also not going to be able to even simply show pictures of Michelle Obama pregnant with the daughters of the Obama family, because, in my opinion, they're not their daughters. So they definitely will not sue. And Barack Obama definitely didn't mention that his wife was called a man in the middle of the octagon on the lawn of the White House when he was talking about this Iran deal that President Trump has made. So I highly doubt that that will ever cross their lips. They will never, ever mention Mohap. They will never, ever even try to deflect or deny that Michelle Obama has a penis or anything like that. So Barack Obama slammed President Trump, saying it is doubtful that any agreement that arises is going to be significantly different or a significant improvement from the deal we had in the first place, and it worked for a long stretch of time before we, the United States, pulled out. Well, that is absolutely going to be proven to be false, because I'm sure you remember Barack Obama gave the Iranian regime $50 billion, gave them pallets of cash in a single night, and he also put them on a road to having a nuclear weapon. And, of course, there were Iranian terrorists that were allowed to remain alive so that at a later date they could continue to kill American troops. Now, President Trump is not going to allow that to happen, and I could have sworn that we had... Yeah, here is the video. And I just got to get past this commercial real quick.
Blurry vision and concerns about deteriorating sight. Do not.
Okay.
Spent a lot of time wrestling with the threat of a nuclear Iran. How do you think things are being handled right now there?
It is doubtful that any
Well, first of all, we already blew all their nuclear enrichment sites to shit. Very different from the get-go.
agreement that arises is going to be significantly different or a significant improvement from the deal that we had in the first place and had worked for a long stretch of time before the United States pulled out of it. So I'm hopeful that bombing stops and ordinary people are no longer suffering as a consequence of the war. And then in retrospect, it's a reminder that on a lot of difficult foreign policy problems, the notion that we can just bully our way or bomb our way to solutions may sometimes seem appealing.
I mean, was it appealing to you, Barack Hussein Obama, when you were like the drone commander in office, when you killed American citizens without due process or without a warrant, or you were sending CIA hit squads around, or you tried, first of all, you successfully deposed the government of Libya. What about when you set about the process of deposing the government of Syria? I mean, you yourself were responsible for countless deaths all over the globe. And if I think anybody who's been paying attention can logically and realistically say that President Trump's presidency, both the first and the second term, has been so dramatically different from anything that we've seen in any of these other terms. I mean, Barack Obama would have no problem sending a drone out, boom, 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 killing. Oops, we hit a wedding party. Well, you know, that's war. Unfortunately, that's war, and that's just what happens. And sometimes innocent people die. President Trump does everything he can to stop innocent people from dying. You know what you haven't seen coming out of Iran? You might have seen like those couple of still images where they said that the United States had hit a school or something like that. But that was like once. You know what I mean? Like how many times from Syria did you see pictures and videos of like little kids? And, you know, how many times have you seen that coming out of freaking Gaza? And just like it's everywhere. All right. This is a completely different scenario. So Obama knows about bullying your way out of a situation because he did that. And, you know, you could also ask his former gay lovers back at his church. Oh, no, wait, you can't because they all got shot in the head.
But the fact of the matter is that taking the time to explore diplomacy and exhaust the possibilities of coming up with deals that don't solve 100% of the problem, but solve 80, 90% of the problem, while avoiding the necessity of going to war. You'd think we would have learned that lesson by now, but it seems like every so often we have to relearn that lesson again.
All right, well, you know, like I said this morning with Brian, peace through strength only works if you're willing to flex the muscle. The world needs to understand that the United States is not to be trifled with. All right. We are going to protect our interests. We are going to protect our sphere of influence. And when you may decide that you want to step out of line and threaten that sphere of influence, then the United States is going to have to take action. But that doesn't mean that we need to do a ground assault, come into your country, and stay there for the next 10 to 20 years. We can do that, and we can do it rather quickly. And I think that we've shown here that that's possible. So now just one more piece about the Obamas before we move past this and into the final segment of this Iran deal. The Obama Public Library, or the Obama Presidential Library, is almost complete. And as part of the Obama Presidential Library deal, only black contractors were allowed to work on this billion-dollar building in the center of Chicago. It's on land that was appropriated from a school or from a playground in the city of Chicago. It was a playground for children. They took that land, and over the course of, since the end of Obama's presidency, they've been building this presidential library. It's way over budget. It's really ugly. And they only hired black contractors. Well, just because they hired them doesn't mean they planned on paying them. And it appears that a fair number of those black contractors have just gotten stiffed by the Obamas.
Subcontractors are claiming they haven't been paid yet for the work on the project.
So many of our black contractors are complaining about they have not got their money. But the other side of it, a lot of the black community and the newspapers do not know that these people have not been paid. Contractors are already in bankruptcy. That's what they're saying, that if it wasn't the fact that they worked on this Obama project, they would not be under this type of problem.
You can file that with You Can Keep Your Doctor. The Obama Presidential Center officially opens to the public in Chicago this Friday. Those are your headlines, and I know.
Okay, so first of all, the building itself is like an exercise in brutalism. It's really ugly. I don't know who would want to see that every morning. And then this area up here, I don't know if this is like a walking path, but this looks like some kind of like a rat maze or something like that. And then you have this heart here. I don't know. The whole thing is just kind of an affront to architectural sensibilities. But what a tragedy that all of these black businesses in Chicago signed up to work on this multi-billion-dollar program that was supposed to be funded by all of these special interests. You would think that they would have paid these people out as they were doing the work, but apparently a good number of them are now forced into bankruptcy. Likely they will never be paid. They will never be paid, and Obama will continue to sleep easily at night in his Nantucket mansion. Now, the question of the legal steadfastness of this agreement is not in contention, because although there's going to be a public signing ceremony, there was a digital signing ceremony that happened yesterday. So the U.S. and Iran have both signed this memorandum of understanding, which was completed yesterday and is essentially the peace deal itself. Now, this would have happened weeks ago if it wasn't for Israel hitting Hezbollah in Lebanon. And what's really interesting about it is that Benjamin Netanyahu has also come out publicly since the announcement of this deal and essentially said that he's actually not going to comply with President Trump's wishes, that if he wants to bomb Lebanon, he's going to bomb Lebanon. And you know what? He's going to go one step further. They're not pulling out of Lebanon. They are going to stay in Lebanon, and they're going to bomb whoever the hell they want. Now, I'm going to have to translate this for you. Someone says, a reporter says to Netanyahu, will you strike again in Iran? Will you strike alone in Iran again? And will you strike independently in Lebanon? There was a question. Well, President Trump and I, Israel, we often see eye to eye, and there are also instances where we see less eye to eye. I am responsible for Israel's security interests. Standing to do this wisely requires a lot of experience and a lot of understanding and a lot of familiarity with American policy. So yes, basically, in another clip, he says we're gonna stay in Lebanon. We're not leaving Lebanon. They call it the security zone, even though it's sovereign territory of another country. But the deal that President Trump signed with Iran also governs the attacks by Hezbollah on Israel. And, let's just be very clear, whatever remnants of Hezbollah may exist in Lebanon, it's not like some sort of terror mastermind training camp or anything like that. Like, Israel has massive military superiority over anything in Lebanon, and there are a lot of civilians that are in danger every single time Israel rains bombs down into Lebanon as well. So, yes, he will undoubtedly test the resolve of the Iranian government and President Trump. What I thought was most interesting was J.D. Vance's comments about the 47 years of bad relationships we've had with Iran. And we're going to turn over a new leaf, which means that Iran is likely to become an ally, a great ally of the United States. And I think that's going to be very difficult for people to reconcile, because for 47 years, we've heard death to America, and Iran is coming to kill us, and they hate us. But that's only a very small portion of what was the Iranian government. I think a lot of those people are dead. Some of those people might still be around, but at the end of the day, what we are going to be engaging with in Iran may not be a full regime change, but it is going to be a regime comprised of new people and, yes, still comprised of some old people. Now, I'm not going to play this entire clip here, but this guy, John Podhertz, he is absolutely crashing out. Many different people from the Israel lobby are crashing out about this peace deal. And he says, I honestly don't know if this could have been worse. Trump has choked. He has chickened out. I'm out of my mind here. He's out of his mind because Trump didn't completely destroy Iran and kill every last man, woman, and child. That is what the Israel lobby wanted us to do, because then it would be a lot easier for Israel to just pick up and do whatever the hell they want in the Middle East. But take a listen to him crashing out over President Trump signing a peace deal and making sure that there is no war any longer.
I honestly don't know if it could be worse, because if this war ends the way I fear it's going to, America is going to be in a strategically, tactically, and militarily worse position than it was under Biden.
How, though, Josh? How could we possibly be in a worse tactical position than we were under Biden? Because now we have just forced compliance with the peace deal, which requires handing over all of the enriched uranium in the country of Iran. The United States goes in and gets it. We don't just go on the honor system. We're also not like handing over a bunch of free money. All of the guarantees of joining the rest of the world are dependent upon Iran behaving like a nation that everybody else wants to do business with and be neighbors with. So basically, he does 5 minutes of this. Chicken Little crying and calling out and saying that the sky is falling. And here in this clip, he says there's nobody on earth who's going to say America didn't lose this war. There's nobody.
We stopped carpet bombing them to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Now we're removing, the blockade to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Next time we'll be giving up something else to reopen.
No. It's not giving up something to stop carpet bombing another country. If you don't really want to be at war with another country, if peace is the prize, if that's what you want, then you have achieved your objective. And you've done that through this other nation, making an agreement to stop behaving like a petulant child on the world stage. Why do they not want the Strait of Hormuz to be open? That means that there is the free flow of oil and gas and product going through there. I mean, do they want oil prices to remain at historically high rates? They've already fallen precipitously. The S&P 500 added $1.2 trillion in value by closing up like several percentage points because of this agreement. I mean, everything is going really well.
Open the Strait of Hormuz. This is the way negotiations with the Iranians work.
The way negotiations with us work.
Yeah.
It's about us. It's not about them. What they want is completely clear. They want freedom of action. They want to be able to close or open the Strait of Hormuz at will. They want to continue their nuclear program.
No.
Okay, but none of those things are happening. None of those things are happening. Peace is contingent upon the strait being open and commerce taking place. Rebuilding is contingent upon them being a good steward of the region. And just like everybody else. All right. Now, what's really interesting is that Mark Levin, throughout this entire thing, he was so excited, so stoked about President Trump going to war with Iran. All right. Obviously, he's a big fan of Bibi. He's a big Israel guy. And And it was totally cool that everything was unilateral, that President Trump needs the power to do this. He's the president of the United States. But now that President Trump has made a peace deal, and it doesn't include regime change, carpet bombing, total control over all Iranian assets, allowing Israel to just continue bombing and doing whatever they want from here into infinity. Now he wants Congress to approve this deal. Suddenly, he doesn't trust President Trump to do the job. Isn't that interesting?
Congress is going to review it because that's not discussed either. Yes, Congress will have to look at this. And most importantly, they're going to look at whether this deal can be upheld, I suspect. Now, this should be treated as a treaty.
Well, if it's treated as a treaty, then it can't be done without Congress. So I'm sorry, Mark, but that's off the table. We're not actually going to be going there. See, what Mark Levin wants is essentially to put the ball in Israel's court. And Congress is in the pocket of Israel, okay? Because that's where the AIPAC money lobby lies. That's not where President Trump's loyalties lie. President Trump's loyalties lie with the American people and America. So I'm sorry to AIPAC and to the Israel lobby, but you didn't get this one, okay? And I hope that everybody out there who thought that President Trump was doing this just for Israel sees exactly what is going on. Very interestingly, what also came out is that the Strait of Hormuz has actually been open for quite some time. About a month ago, President Trump brokered a deal between Qatar and Iran. Qatar is one of those nations that will be helping Iran to rebuild and will be investing in the country. During this time, billions of dollars were paid to Tehran for the exchange of free passage for Qatari tankers and all of their ships. So Qatar has been allowed to bring oil and gas through the Straits of Hormuz without having to deal with a blockade or without having to deal with Iran stopping them or anything else. And so from this article, the secret U.S. approval, which sources said was granted about a month ago, dovetailed with Doha's interest in opening a direct channel of communication with Tehran, which began to tighten after the ceasefire. Qatar fearing a renewed Iranian attack on its facilities, and keep in mind there were a number of them, Iran attacking Qatari oil and gas facilities. I mentioned before there was a major helium processing plant that was also destroyed. It's going to take billions of dollars in several years to get that back online. After one of its gas installations was attacked during the war, sought to buy security quietly. Some of the payments were disguised as fees for tankers passing through Hormuz, and a broad credit line of up to $1 billion was also open for the purchase of goods through Qatar. So President Trump has already in the background secretly negotiated the type of economic interdependence that will become necessary when Iran becomes part of the global community inevitably. Yes, and President Trump has single-handedly saved gas prices with this. Let me see what the price of a barrel of crude oil is at right now. I believe it fell like $8 overnight. Crude oil prices. Okay, so we go to oilprice.com. And crude is at $80 a barrel right now. Okay. And natural gas is at $3.15. I don't know what container it comes in. But yes, I would expect the closer we get to this peace deal being signed, the lower the price of oil will fall. Do you guys remember years ago during Trump's first term when we were live on the air and the price of crude oil fell below $50 a barrel, and then it dropped to like negative territory because there was so much oil that we had pumped out and there was no place to store it anymore, and gas just like free fell. It was like wild watching it on the air. So anyways, we're in a good spot. President Trump has put us in a good spot. And I think that there's a lot of people who doubted his ability to do this. And I never had any doubts that we were going to be getting to this exact moment. I also had no doubts that Israel was going to be playing the games that they've been playing and that they continue to play. Keep your eyes out there for people putting out explicitly pro-Israeli messages. So I saw Ted Cruz did a video today with AIPAC talking about there are people in the United States who want to destroy the special relationship between Israel and the United States. There may be. All right. But there are also people out there who are openly questioning it with good reason, because everything that's good for Israel is not good for the United States. There are times when our interests align, just as there are times when the United States interests align with other nations. But more often than not, the interests of the United States are the interests of the United States and the United States alone. And that should be the only consideration that is made when making choices which affect our people, because it's our people. It's not your people. It's not their people. It's our people. And that is what I think President Trump understands. All right. Now, we're going to move on from the conversation about the peace deal. And we're going to touch on a subject that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Now, there was a U.S. District Court judge, a woman by the name of Eleanor Ross. She's in Georgia. Eleanor Ross was put on the hot seat because she was recorded pounding cheeks in her office in the courthouse by a police officer who worked in the area where she did. Now, both she and this police officer were married. That was the deputy chief of the Atlanta Police Department. His name is Kelly Collier. I'm going to play the video of Judge Eleanor Ross going to Pound Town. And I just want to say, first of all, if you've got any children in the room, you're going to want to probably have them leave or cover their ears for just about 30 seconds, maybe a little bit less. But when this accusation first came out, I thought to myself, there's no way. There's no way. No way. I can't believe that this judge would be so crude as to do this. But here is the proof. This is real. Can you believe that? Can you believe that somebody would be so uncouth, a federal judge, to be engaging in this type of behavior in a public building with the the deputy chief of police? Well, once this video came out, once the claims were made, once they both came under a federal investigation by the DOJ, of course, they both lawyered up. And I'm sure that their marriages are not in a good place right now. Now, Representative Clay Fuller, who is the new representative for Georgia, took Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. He dropped articles of impeachment against Judge Ross. She's in the Northern District of Georgia. Now, here is Clay announcing those articles of impeachment.
I will be introducing an article of impeachment against Judge Eleanor Ross, a federal district court judge in the Northern District of Georgia for high crimes and misdemeanors. And I want to say a special thank you to Chairman Jim Jordan and his team for his help in putting this article of impeachment together. So Judge Ross was engaged in an extramarital affair with a high-ranking member officer of the Atlanta Police Department. But it wasn't just that she was engaged in an extramarital affair, an adulterous affair, which is illegal under the Georgia State Code, but also she was engaged in this extramarital affair in her chambers in a federal courthouse within hearing of her own employees and clerks. Judge Ross has no business on being on the federal bench. She has shown that she doesn't have the ethical conduct or behavior to continue serving as a federal judge, and that is why we have offered and introduced this article of impeachment. I will be...
All right. Well, things just got worse for her today. Because in order to prove what she was doing, I mean, you know, screaming and everything, that's one thing. All right. But now, apparently, the DOJ is taking samples from her office to test it for DNA. They have actually removed cushions from her couch. She was also an Obama appointee. It's worth mentioning. And a lot of people are suggesting she should just step down because this is pretty filthy behavior. All right. So according to the judicial misconduct investigation by the 11th Circuit, these two, she and her courtesan, Atlanta Police Deputy Chief Kelly Collier, were engaged in intimate contact, which included sexual intercourse in her chambers during work hours, not once, but on several occasions over roughly a 2-year period. So clerks, multiple clerks, reported hearing unsettling noises, such as you heard a few moments ago. Kissing sounds. And how are you going to hear kissing sounds? I don't think it's kissing sounds that they were hearing. They also heard music coming from the judge's chambers. The investigation described the workplace environment as extremely uncomfortable and troubling for staff. Evidence collected during the probe included security logs, video footage, and even a stained couch cushion from her chambers that was sent for forensic testing. Judge Ross initially denied the allegations when questioned by Chief Judge William Pryor and the other judicial officials. But then when confronted with the video, she later admitted the relationship. Now, the investigation also found that she attended a partisan political event. I believe it was for Fannie Willis. The investigation also found that by doing so, she had violated judicial conduct rules. Ross was issued a private reprimand by the 11th Circuit Judicial Council. This is a punishment that many have called too lenient. She was also required to send apology letters to her former law clerks. Now, according to Breitbart, the judge wrote, "My actions were patently wrong, and there is no excuse. I am writing to you for a second time to convey my deepest apologies for my harmful, offensive, and unprofessional behavior that made your clerkship an unpleasant experience. If I was one of those people, as soon as I got this letter, I would have immediately filed suit for like some type of hostile work environment or something." Now, Representative Fuller, who filed the articles of impeachment, said there are far too many rogue judges in our federal judiciary who need to be held accountable. I am proud to file this article of impeachment against one of those rogue judges, Eleanor Ross, for engaging in an extramarital affair in her chambers within earshot of the clerks and then lying about it. When judges become political activists or engage in judicial misconduct, Congress hears both the responsibility and the constitutional authority to hold them accountable. Judge Ross' deeply disturbing actions prove she is incapable of displaying integrity or showing impartiality. She's simply unfit to remain a U.S. District Judge for the Northern District of Georgia, which is why I'm leading the charge to impeach Judge Ross and ultimately remove her from the bench. Now, I'm certain we will hear more about this investigation as it continues. Looking forward to seeing what the DNA evidence shows from that stained couch cushion. Gross. So gross. All right. Now, if you thought it was bad for Judge Ross, it just got even worse for James Comey. James Comey, of course, who is currently now being prosecuted in North Carolina. What we've seen in cases like this in the past, you may have heard the term amicus brief. An amicus brief is friend of the court brief. Basically, it's when somebody who is not involved in the case can file some type of petition with the court to intervene on behalf of either the defense or on the prosecution. And oftentimes it can delay these proceedings. It can also make it appear as if certain people who shouldn't be involved are getting involved. Well, in the case of James Comey, the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of North Carolina and the judge overseeing that, Louise Flanagan, gave a one-page order explaining the discretion available to the court and the route she's chosen to allow those. And long story short, no friend of the court briefs, no amicus briefs will be allowed in the prosecution against former FBI Director James Comey. Now, if you don't remember, James Comey is currently facing charges tied to his posting of that image of seashells spelling out 8647 on the Outer Banks beach where he and his wife were walking, and he just happened to see them. Of course, he had nothing to do with placing those shells, he said. And it's scheduled for arraignment on September 30th in New Bern, and then the trial would begin on October 21st. He is facing 2 federal counts of threats against the president. No federal rule of criminal procedure or local criminal rule provides for the filing of amicus briefs before the court, Flanagan wrote. It is a matter of this court's discretion whether to allow defendant and the government are ably represented by competent counsel. That means no. There is no reason for amicus briefs to be filed. I think the arguments made by the federal government are fairly salient. James Comey has more than enough money to hire himself a good defense attorney, and so there's no reason to think that anyone not involved with the case would need to come forward and say anything or give the judge anything else to consider. So James Comey, of course, is James Brian Comey Jr., and the case of United States versus Comey is something I think all of us are looking forward to. Judge Flanagan continued, acting within its discretion, the court provides this notice that no amicus brief will be considered. Accordingly, any future motion requesting permission to file summarily will be denied, so don't even bother trying. In May of last year, prosecutors say that Comey, a resident of Virginia, posted to social media those seashells on the Outer Bank arranged to spell 8647, a commonly interpreted reference to eliminating something, 86, and the numerical count 47 of presidents. Comey was FBI director in the administration of former two-term Democrat President Barack Obama, serving from July 29th, 2013 to May 9th of 2017, when President Trump fired him. His Senate confirmation was 93-1. That's how you know he was dirty from the very beginning. Comey was infamously investigating President Trump and alleged ties to Russian government sources when he was let go. Comey was Deputy Attorney General to John Ashcroft during the administration of former two-term Republican President George W. Bush, and his career outside of politics includes a law professor at Columbia and time with Lockheed Martin and Bridgewater Associates. Right now, James Comey fancies himself a bit of an author, and part of the government's case against James Comey is to seize the proceeds from any of those books that he may have sold as a result of posting that 8647 on the beach. So I tend to think that they're probably going to make a case that James Comey did this as some sort of a political stunt that also had the intended message of suggesting that President Trump should be assassinated. So bad news for James Comey. Also, bad news for that Wisconsin brewery owner, Kirk Bangstad, Minocqua Brewing Company. You may remember this story from maybe about a month ago. Well, agents with the Wisconsin Department of Revenue, the Division of Alcoholic Beverages, and backed by the Minocqua Police Department all rolled up on the Minocqua Brewing Company tap room owned by this far-left political activist, Kirk Bangstad, who recently announced his run for governor in Wisconsin, back on Thursday afternoon, and they started hauling out case after case of beer. Now, I guess there is video from the Lakeland Times which shows eyewitness accounts suggesting that the Division of Revenue agents and local cops loaded this alcohol into state vehicles while at least 2 Minocqua squad cars and 4 or 5 state vehicles sat on site. What we know is that reports indicate the seized product was primarily canned beer that was brewed in Illinois and sold or stored in Bangstad's Wisconsin tap rooms without proper permits or payment of Wisconsin excise taxes. Now, you know that when you don't pay your taxes, the government really doesn't like it. According to Yahoo News, Bangstad, who recently launched that campaign for governor, but did not gather enough valid signatures to get on the ballot. No. That wasn't it either.
I'm here to tell you.
No, that's not it. I need to find it. Maybe I didn't upload it yet. Okay. But did not gather enough signatures to get on the ballot, said in a public post to supporters that the Division of Revenue's Division of Alcoholic Beverages seized about half of the beer he sells after an inspection of his tap rooms in Minocqua and Madison, after he had not obtained the proper permits or paid the taxes in Wisconsin to sell and store the beer that was brewed in Illinois. Oneida County Sheriff Grady Hartman confirmed to the Lakeland Times that the Department of Revenue was conducting an investigation at the brewery, and the Wisconsin Department of Revenue oversees enforcement of state alcohol laws, including licensing requirements, alcohol taxes, and regulatory compliance. If they really wanted to get him, and they might just take his liquor license, which would, of course, mean that he would have to close down both of his breweries. We can confirm that pursuant to an application before the division and consistent with the department's standard practices and procedures, the department inspected Minocqua Brewing Company premises, and based on a complaint the division received last year, so it looks like he was already on the radar of these people. The department has been discussing concerns with the Minocqua Brewing Company and its legal counsel for several months towards reaching a path of compliance. At this time, there is an active law enforcement action, and we will decline to comment on any additional specifics due to the ongoing nature of this investigation. The division is required to follow and implement state law, including ensuring permit holders and licensees following all applicable laws and regulations. Selling alcohol in Wisconsin comes with a unique set of rules and standards designed to protect consumers, promote public health, and track alcohol beverages for tax and safety purposes. These state laws ensure that no permit or license holder gains an unfair advantage by bypassing tax obligations and or by evading safety protocols, the agency concluded. Well, Bangstad claims the seizure of roughly $25,000 worth of inventory, roughly half of the beer on his premises, was malicious harassment over a supposed $500 tax issue. Well, if that's the deal, Kurt, then why didn't you just pay the $500? He's threatening to sue Governor Tony Evers' administration, and he's blaming political retaliation. I've been very critical of corporate Democrat Tony Evers over the last year for not being proactive in stopping Trump's regime from abusing Wisconsinites. And based on my candidacy for governor, on forcing him to protect our upcoming elections from Trump's slow-burning nationwide coup. Since my liquor lawyer has never seen this level of punishment being exacted on any of his other brewery clients before in his career, I can't help but wonder if there's someone directing these enforcement agents to come down on me extra hard as a way to teach me a lesson. Bangstad, who ran for Wisconsin State Assembly as a Democrat and founded the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC, which has funneled millions into electing Democrats and advancing liberal causes, has a long history of inflammatory anti-Trump rhetoric, and he recently launched that failed bid for governor where not enough people cared to see him on the ballot. Kurt Bangstad had also promoted that sick free beer day. He was going to give beer away when President Trump died. He sold merchandise with slogans like, I wish it was free beer day at Minocqua Brewing Company, and is he dead yet? ? And he even posted a recent assassination attempt on President Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner and said, well, we almost got hashtag free beer day. Regardless, we stand at the ready to pour free beer the day it happens. In 2024, Bangstad also filed a lawsuit alleging that Trump is ineligible to hold office for engaging in an, quote, insurrection, even though he has not been charged with or even faced trial for that crime. Karma seems to have a way of catching up with you. The man who promised free beer the day Trump dies has just had thousands of dollars of his own product seized by a state that is run by Democrats. Kurt Bangstad, I'm glad I never got the chance to go to Minocqua Brewing Company. All right. Now, you know who else it is a very, very bad day for? The Newsom family. Governor Gavin Newsom and his wife, Jennifer Newsom. It would appear that both of them are also under federal investigation. Yes, and Governor Gavin Newsom even went live to do an address before the people of California, detailing everything that's going on and essentially kind of complaining about the fact that he is under criminal investigation by the Department of Justice. Snowcat Operator, thank you, sir, for dropping the subscriptions to B4U2C. Mama Bomando, Jules 5777, Florida for Trump, and ready for it bet. Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of you. Okay, so California Governor Gavin Newsom earlier today fumed because he and his wife are under investigation. The scope of the investigation is unclear in its entirety. However, Newsom said federal agents have contacted people and organizations close to him and his wife. If you'll remember, there is some funny business going on with the money in the state of California. Everybody knows that. But Gavin Newsom's own people have already been brought up and tried on charges. I said at that time that it was quite likely that the former confidant of Gavin Newsom had likely already given information to the federal government, and likely that she had done so in order to get a more lenient sentence. I tend to think that that's exactly what happened. But because of this investigation, people close to the Newsoms are receiving subpoenas. They are being required to hand over their records. And it was his chief of staff, Dana Williamson, who was indicted on wire fraud charges last year. And according to Semaphore, there are several investigations linked to the Newsoms, and they are mostly focused on Jennifer Newsom's taxes and his former chief of staff. So these investigations did not originate from Maine DOJ in D.C., but they're actually coming out of Sacramento, and it looks like they involve whistleblowers who used to work for Gavin Newsom in California state government. And he says that President Trump is trying to jail his political enemies, but of course that's not what's really happening. Let's actually just hear it from Gavin Newsom himself. Now, this is a nearly 5-minute clip, but in the interest of Schadenfreude, I think we should watch the whole thing.
In recent days, federal agents have knocked on the doors of family, friends, and former employees, not because they found a crime, because they're simply trying to find one. They're demanding records. They're abusing the grand jury process, digging through years and years of random documents. Donald Trump isn't just coming after me because of my mean tweets. He's coming after me because I'm considering running for president, because he hates that I've consistently called him out over and over again for his lies and deceit. Donald Trump is simply the most corrupt president in American history. He's turned the levers of government into his own personal power ministries.
How ironic is it that Gavin Newsom is making this argument when they actually did this to President Trump? Like, the man did nothing wrong. They set about, with a set of circumstances, trying to craft a crime, and then they went after him. In this instance, again, it's very different because what you have are whistleblowers who worked with or under Gavin Newsom, who witnessed the fraud and the criminality firsthand, who then went to the DOJ in Sacramento and said, Gavin Newsom must be stopped. His wife must be stopped.
To reward cronies and to try to jail his opponents. His personal attorney now runs the Department of Justice, which has repeatedly gone after his political enemies. Ask Jerome Powell. Sent them after James Comey, Trish James, Adam Schiff. He sent them after Tim Walz, and a woman that a jury found Donald Trump had sexually abused. One by one, anyone who has challenged Donald Trump has ended up on his hit list. And today, I proudly join that list. After calling for my arrest last year, Donald Trump directed his Department of Justice to investigate me. And just in the last week, I've learned that his campaign has reached my own home. To get me, he's coming after my wife, Jen, a public servant, a woman who's dedicated her life to supporting women and girls, someone who has done nothing wrong other than having the temerity to advocate for what she believes in. If they can't intimidate me, they'll go after the mother of our children. Donald Trump picked the wrong target. We have nothing to...
I would, before we continue with Gavin Newsom's claims of political retribution by going after his wife, I would like to remind you of a story that was printed by the New York Post just about a year ago. Excuse me, this was not a year ago. This was just a couple months ago. I thought this was 2025. This is 2026. Gavin Newsom takes advantage of disgusting loophole to funnel over $4 million to his wife's pet projects. Gavin Newsom has helped to funnel more than $4.4 million in donations from organizations and powerful figures to a political nonprofit created by his spouse, Jennifer Siebel Newsom. California Partners Project, a nonprofit launched by Siebel Newsom in 2020 to promote gender equality, has raked in a significant amount of cash from donors at the request of her hubby, thanks to a murky loophole, according to a review of nonprofit filings and state records. The findings come as it's also revealed that Newsom helped push woke documentaries produced by another one of his wife's pet projects, the Representation Project, into California classrooms. Donors to the California Partners Project include Silicon Valley Bank, $100,000, the wealthy Pritzker family, almost $572,000, the Federated Indians of Grattan Rancheria and San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, $1.9 million combined, Blue Shield of California Foundation, $50,000, and New Venture Fund, $100,000, the last of which is a progressive dark money group. Dark money groups refer to politically active nonprofits that don't have to disclose donors, unlike political action committees. Now, the sizable donations to the California Partners Project were made as behested payments with Newsom's help. A behested payment is a donation made to a third party at the request of a public official, allowing polls to solicit unlimited money for initiatives or charities that they favor. Just so happens his wife is the one that he favors in this instance. The payments are not considered campaign contributions or personal gifts, but any donation of $5,000 or more in a calendar year must be reported. The whole concept of behested payments is disgusting, Steve Hilton, who is, of course, running for California governor, said. It's literally corruption in plain sight. You can be certain that as governor, I will not be engaging in this corrupt practice, as I will do everything in my power to ban it. Many of these donors have also benefited from Newsom's 7 years in public office, such as his lobbying for the bailout of Silicon Valley Bank in 2023, blocking the Coination from building a competing tribal casino north of San Francisco in 2024. Newsom also gave Blue Shield a no-bid contract for COVID vaccinations early in the pandemic, while soliciting Blue Shield entities for $20.8 million in behested donations, according to state records. Izzy Gardon, a spokesperson for the governor, told the Post that Newsom's decisions are based solely on serving the best interests of all Californians. Charitable contributions play no role in decision-making, she said, and any claim to the contrary is categorically false. Dan Schur, a teacher of political communications at USC and UC Berkeley, said the governor's excessive use of behested payments to his wife's charity is an obvious loophole in campaign finance law. They're not breaking any laws, but Newsom is following this law more aggressively than any other politician in modern history. All right, I think that gives you the thrust of one aspect that may be going on here. Let's finish Gavin Newsom's comments here.
Hide. His political operatives can take every record and read every page, but they'll be looking in the wrong place. Because if they really want to find corruption, look no further than 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Donald Trump is selling the presidency. He's running the largest cash heist in American political history.
That's, again, hilarious after what I just read to you.
Trading foreign tariff relief for approval of his golf courses. Day trading behind the Resolute desk, reaping hundreds of millions of dollars in personal profit. And he's doing it openly. He's doing it on camera. He did it last night on the White House lawn. He's doing it through cryptocurrencies. He's doing it through the receipt of a $400 million private jet from a...
Well, that wasn't, again, to President Trump. That went to the United States government. And also, President Trump was forced to divest himself from all of his financial holdings and all of his businesses. So the president is not doing anything that Gavin Newsom is claiming here.
Foreign government that he plans to keep when he leaves office.
That's not happening either. It's the United States plane.
Through his son's ventures in countries where his own administration is simultaneously making policy. His personal fortune has skyrocketed by $4 billion since making his return to office. This is the...
Well, anybody who's got money in the stock market has had their personal fortunes raise quite a bit. I mean, like, geez, it would have been awesome if I had money in the stock market, Gavin, but I'm just a lowly podcaster. I don't have the money to play the market. But anybody who did has made money hand over fist because President Trump has brought the economy out of the shitter as a result of the last 4 years under Joe Biden.
Behavior of a regime, not a republic. The White House has become a marketplace for sneakers and coins and watches, cologne, guitars, Bibles, and phones. Influence for sale, access for sale.
Even before President Trump became president, he was a vast merchandising empire. The Trump name was already worth a whole hell of a lot of money. I used to have a Trump wallet. I loved that wallet. Absolutely loved that wallet. And some dirty son of a bitch stole it out of my car, along with all my money and my cards.
Today, my family and I can personally confirm that justice is for sale. To Donald Trump, who I know is watching because he watches everything, I have a message for you. You can subpoena my records. You can investigate me. You can harass me. Put my name on every and any enemies list you have, but leave my wife and family out.
The only problem is if your wife committed crimes, that's not up to Donald Trump. That's up to the Department of Justice and to the whistleblowers that came in and gave information about you and your wife to the U.S. Attorney's Office there in Sacramento, Gavin.
Of your personal vendetta. I'd like to say something to my wife. These times are not normal. They're not ordinary. I love you, and I'm sorry he's doing this. You have not earned a single one of the indignities that he's trying to inflict on you and our children. And to Donald Trump, this country does not belong to you. It does not belong to your cronies. And we're going to fight your lawlessness. And we're going to continue to remind the people of this country of your corruption. That same corruption our founders warned us against as we move to celebrate our 250th anniversary. I'm going to keep reminding Americans of what they warned would happen if a man with no character ever held the office of presidency. So let me say it again. Mr. President, come after me. I'm not going anywhere. And the country is watching.
The country is watching, Gavin. I just want you guys to remember that speech, because that is what panic looks like. That is what it looks like when a man knows he's cooked. What's even worse, when he knows his wife is cooked, when he knows that the crimes of his entire family are about to be exposed. And I love it. I love it. I love seeing Gavin Newsom squirm. I cannot deny it. This is absolutely the truth. Now, we're going to stay in California, and here we have another personal story from a homeless woman in L.A. who says that it's not just that the NGOs come out and get you registered to vote and then ask you to vote on something. They actually get you registered to vote maybe four to five times a year, and you get paid every single time. And that should make total sense, because we know that they are taking the names of people and addresses of people, and they're having these homeless people register to vote in those names so that they can then use those ballots in the mail-in ballot fraud scheme that California has developed over the years.
Are you registered to vote?
Not today.
Are you registered to vote?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So sometimes people come by and ask you if you're registered?
Yeah.
And how much money do you get paid to register to vote?
$25.
25. And how many times can you register to vote?
I say about 5 times a year.
Who'd you vote for?
Oh, the lady, the one who.
Karen Bass, Nithya?
Well, yeah, I don't know the name. All the folks well I see.
Karen Bass?
Yeah. Her.
Have you ever even heard the name Nithya Ramos?
No, no disrespect.
Yeah.
But have them, I don't even know them.
Did you vote at a post office or?
I voted, my person, somebody walking.
You voted with somebody who was walking by?
Yeah.
Okay.
With a piece of paper. I don't know what he was, but I voted.
I usually don't vote. That's fine.
Have you ever registered to vote?
Yeah, I register all the time, but I just keep forgetting to go down and do it.
So you register to vote all the time?
Mm-hmm. I just haven't chosen anyone.
How many times have you registered to vote?
Like 3 or 4 times.
3 or 4? What are you guys waiting for?
They're going to serve lunch at 12:30.
Oh,
Did you see this dude in the background with a yo-yo? It's a yo-yo champion.
I have lunch right now.
What person did you vote for this last mayor election?
I didn't.
You didn't vote?
I didn't vote.
Are you registered to vote?
Not today.
Are you registered to vote?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So sometimes people come by and ask you if you're registered?
Yeah.
And how much money do you get paid to register to vote?
$25.
25. And how many times can you register to vote?
I say about 5 times a year. It's always, yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering what person you voted for this last election. How come? Are you you're registered? You're not registered? How many times have you been asked to register to vote? Oh, okay. I'm the first person who's ever asked you about it.
I was in a program. I was buying.
Oh, okay.
Need a freaking interpreter. What are they saying?
Voter fraud that we're seeing happen in this video, where the homeless are being registered to vote 4 or 5 times each, is exactly how Democrats come from so far behind and then all of a sudden end up winning with mail-in ballots. They are ballot harvesting. And if we look here, it's statistically impossible for the ballots that are coming in to match what the results are. This is from a late night ballot drop on the first night of the election. There were 0 ballots out of 24,000 that went.
All right, and we know the rest of this because we've already gone over all of it. But yes, they are registering people over and over and over again, and then they're using those registrations to ballot harvest. All right, now let's talk about the latest in LeakGate. This is incredibly distressing. This is an article written by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan. And in this article, they describe some of the most sensitive inner working aspects of the Trump administration. Last spring, she writes, Will Scharf, an arch-conservative lawyer serving as the White House staff secretary, wrote a secret memo to the chief of staff that reflected growing unease in the West Wing about one of the extreme measures being weighed by Stephen Miller, who is certified based, the powerful advisor driving President Trump's deportation campaign. Dated April 29th, 2025, and stamped confidential. Now, beginning there, Maggie Haberman is describing a confidential memo that she had no business getting, but she obviously has a copy of it. The memo was careful and lawyerly, but amounted to a warning against end-running the rule of law. The subject line read, "The writ of habeas corpus." Habeas corpus is the centuries-old right to force the government to justify before a judge why it has locked a person up, and it's enshrined in Article 1 of the Constitution. Interestingly, the Supreme Court has just announced that they will be addressing the issue of habeas corpus for illegal aliens in their next session. So when they come back after the summer, I believe this will be one of the first cases that they take up. Certainly, I hope that they get rid of habeas corpus for aliens. Why do I keep forgetting? I keep forgetting to turn the cooler on my camera on. All right, so the second Trump, so this is enshrined in Article 1 of the Constitution. Mr. Scharf's memo in its unassuming way was a blinking red warning light. The second Trump White House was deliberating an explosive new claim of presidential power, the suspension of habeas rights for unauthorized immigrants. Do it. Go for it. I want to see it. The suspension of habeas corpus has occurred just a handful of times in U.S. history, and it always happens under the most dire circumstances of war or invasion. Yet to a greater degree than previously known, administration officials encouraged by Mr. Trump actively weighed taking that step in the early months of his second term, this time to accelerate the mass deportation of immigrants who are in the country illegally. Flush with a decisive 2024 election victory, Mr. Trump and some members of his team wanted to test how far the emboldened president's authority could be pushed, setting off previously unreported internal struggles over where the limits should be. The man who outlined his concerns in the memo, Mr. Scharf, was no resistance figure. A trim, balding, Harvard-trained lawyer who had run for office in Missouri, had bemoaned John McCain as too moderate for the 2008 Republican nomination, and believed Mr. Trump had been vindictively prosecuted after his 2020 election loss. He had helped develop the Trump team's legal arguments behind the successful effort to get the Mar-a-Lago classified documents indictment thrown out, as well as the arguments behind the presidential immunity case that prevailed at the Supreme Court. He had embraced the most contentious elements of Mr. Trump's agenda, but was quickly coming up against the limit of what the Constitution in his reading could be made to bear. The Constitution, Mr. Scharf wrote in this memo to Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff, permits suspension of habeas corpus only in cases of rebellion or invasion. Well, as we know, rebellion, invasion, that is currently what we are undergoing with this influx of illegal aliens. This argument has already been made. And courts have almost uniformly held that only Congress can do it. He added, and she directly quotes him again, reinforcing the fact that she actually has this memo, Even where Congress has explicitly suspended habeas corpus rights, the Supreme Court has held that some alternative process may be provided by defendants with procedural safeguards akin to a habeas corpus action. So then in April of last year, the Supreme Court allowed the administration to continue their use of the Alien Enemies Act as the basis for deporting Venezuelans who were in the United States illegally. But the justices ruled that migrants were entitled to challenge their deportations in court before being expelled. The detainees the court held could file lawsuits citing habeas to challenge the basis for their removal, substantially slowing the administration's deportations. Inside the White House, Stephen Miller, the influential deputy in chief, saw an opening for an idea he had previously raised. What if Mr. Trump simply claimed the power to suspend habeas corpus? Then the locked up migrants would be blocked from receiving hearings or from even seeking court orders to prevent their removal from the country. It's brilliant. That's what we need. This was an opportunity that Mr. Trump not only to speed up deportations, but also to assert vastly expanded power over a legal system that was getting in his way. Suspending habeas was one of two radical ideas Mr. Miller had been pushing that alarmed Will Scharf. The other was invoking the Insurrection Act. Yes, do it! To deploy the military to enforce the law on American streets as protests grew against deportation sweeps. I just want to say right now, with what we're seeing in New Jersey, I think it may have opened the door for that to happen as soon as possible, because it's quite clear that the New Jersey politicians and police and authorities are not willing to do what's necessary to keep that ICE installation safe, effectively opening the door for the military to be brought out and for the Insurrection Act to, for it to be declared, right? I mean, like, let's just do it. Let's get it over with. Let's put the military in the streets so then we can go ahead and get the deportations done as fast as possible and stop these people from interfering. So essentially, Mr. Scharf was very upset about this, and he continued to complain. Maggie Haberman goes on to describe a bunch of other things that she has no business knowing. So that leaves us with two possibilities. Either she's got somebody in the White House who is giving her this information and feeding it to her, or even worse, maybe there is actually someone in the White House who is recording this information in the White House Situation Room and then handing those tapes over to Maggie Haberman. So, like, she's just getting transcriptions of everything that's taking place. Now, Jeff Clark, one of the attorneys who was caught in the crosshairs of the weaponization of the government to try to destroy anybody who was backing him up, he says, another day, another unprecedented leak to the New York Times of confidential legal memos. These from the inner sanctum of the White House itself regarding habeas corpus and the Insurrection Act. No administration can properly function like this, where one side to an internal debate runs to the New York Times to slam anyone they don't agree with, postulating a more aggressive course of action. The leakers have no honor. Also, I'm sure it looks like the leaker wants to destroy Vice President Vance and Stephen Miller. And that is Will Scharf right there on screen. Now, I completely agree with Jeff Clark right here. It's obvious that the ideas coming from Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance seem to be, on the more extreme end of things where I would land. I think that we need to take harder action when it comes to immigration and keeping the streets safe. Right now, these people are allowed to just run rampant and put the lives of people working for the federal government in danger. It also puts the lives of civilians in danger, and it puts their lives in danger as well. I have no problem if these people get run over by vehicles when they stand in the way of them as people are trying to leave these ICE facilities. I could care less. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But if we're ever going to get these people out of our country, we've got to do a much, much quicker, harder, and hard-edged job than what's being done right now. Now, the White House has responded to this, and they say they believe that Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan undoubtedly have obtained audio recordings of situation meeting rooms for this book that's about to come out, Regime Change. And I believe that at least a portion of what is written in that article is going to be part of their book, Regime Change. Now, we know undoubtedly Maggie Haberman was given these memos, but there must be more that is discussed in this book that is not related to the memos and was not actually written down or memorialized in a way that it could have been handed over to her. Now, Obviously, if somebody is taping the internal meetings of the president with his cabinet in the Situation Room, that is an unprecedented security breach that, to my knowledge, has never happened before. And it puts into question any single person that may be in the president's immediate vicinity. I think we can say undoubtedly it's not J.D. Vance and it's not Stephen Miller. I don't know if it's Will Scharf. I don't know if it's anybody else, but it's got to be somebody, because they say that they are now worried that there are recording devices that may be hidden around the Situation Room or in other places around the White House. It could be that this is the CIA itself or some other aspect of the intelligence agency, because, of course, Maggie Haberman is a deep state reporter working at the New York Times. And the intelligence community might be getting these recordings and then handing them over. It seems to me that that is highly probable, especially given the fact that President Trump is bringing in Bill Pulte to run the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, somebody who is not connected to the intelligence community in any way, and who is already being directed to clean house at the intelligence agencies when he comes in. Now, they say that we're afraid some of our most sensitive conversations were being recorded, and we have no ideas which one. Verbatim accounts of several Situation Room meetings were included in excerpts about the Iran war and the Epstein files, and the Times posted this ahead of the book's June 23rd publication, so it won't be out for a couple of days. And the authors conducted more than 1,000 interviews to write this book, Regime Change, which is all about Trump's second term. So this is a burgeoning security issue that is likely going to get bigger over the course of the coming days. Once this book comes out and we can fully see what it is that Haberman and her co-author suggest took place inside the White House Situation Room, then it may give an idea about who individually may be responsible for leaking this information. However, at this point, we don't exactly know. Now, Abigail Jackson, spokesperson for the White House, said members of the administration often have conversations about many different lawful options to implement the president's agenda, with the president always being the ultimate decider. But much of the information that Maggie Haberman presents in this article and in her book is not information that she should have anywhere at all, because she is simply not part of the administration. We know that there have been leaks previously. We know that the administration has given bad information to certain people to see what gets leaked, and such as that meeting at Camp David that was supposed to be taking place. That was fake. That was never happening. But somebody definitely went out there and gave that information to the press. I haven't seen anybody get fired, but it could be that that person was put on notice. Either way, keep your eyes on this story, because it is likely to get much, much more important in the coming days. Now, again, going back to Bill Pulte, President Trump is now connecting the appointment in an interim sense to Bill Pulte and the Save America Act. So he posted yesterday, a few Democrats are against FISA with or without Bill Pulte going to DNI as acting director. What kind of a deal is that? Besides, I'm against FISA if it doesn't come with the Save America Act and the full version firmly attached to it. Make America great again. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald Trump. But then he goes deeper and he says, why are the Democrats so afraid of Bill Pulte at DNI? He would only be acting. What do they have to be afraid of? What are they hiding? There must be something big, mustn't there? President DJT. Now, I think everybody here probably understands President Trump is not really asking that question. President Trump is posing that as a non-hypothetical reason why these people are so concerned about Bill Pulte becoming the acting director of national intelligence. Even if he's only there for a couple of weeks, he's going to come in and he's going to have access to all of the stuff that they are currently trying to hide, trying to make sure never gets out. There may even be stuff that they've been successfully able to hide from Tulsi Gabbard. But Bill Pulte is going to come in, and he is not connected to any of it. I think that this is a pretty big deal. Now, as I've said before, I am not a fan of FISA, and the only way that I would want FISA to be renewed is if there are ultimately protections put in place to stop American citizens from being spied upon without warrants. But it would appear that regardless of whether or not Bill Pulte becomes the acting director or not, there are certain elements seeking to cancel FISA altogether, and that wouldn't be a bad thing. But this is really interesting, especially because FISA is what was used to spy on President Trump and all of the people around him. And the Democrats never had any problems with it before. They never worried about the imposition on your civil rights or violation of the Fourth Amendment or anything like that. But now they are very, very concerned about it. And I think the only reason they are is just as President Trump said, because he's the guy in the White House. Bill Pulte will be his guy at the DNI with access to all of the FISA intelligence as it comes in. And undoubtedly, they are hiding something very, very big. And it's June 19th that Bill Pulte is going to be taking over as the acting director of national intelligence, or he'll be working with Tulsi Gabbard 4 days from now on Friday, the day that they sign the Iran deal ultimately in Switzerland. There is a lot going on, guys. Pay attention to that one. Let me say thank you very much to Pastor Clifton. Zach, when we're talking to God's children born on other planets, will you try to convince them that the Son of God was born here, or will you learn real Christianity? Wait a second. When we are talking to God's children born on other planets, will you try to convince them that the Son of God was born here, or will you learn real Christianity? Are you suggesting that Jesus was not born on Earth? And I'm not even convinced that I'm going to be speaking to aliens or beings that are from other planets. So I'm not exactly certain exactly what it is that you're asking. Are you a Urantian? Okay, you'll have to give me more information. Kitsko 2 says they created products to replace or safeguard their assets put on the curb during the big cancel culture was released. See you in Deadwood Thursday. I will see you in Deadwood on Thursday. And then Makes Sense to Me Too says, thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate you, and thank you very much for being here and for that support. All right, also over to Pilled. Thank you very much to Trump1. Hey, Zach, good to see you. Good to see you as well. Polly9363, thank you for the phone. No Thanks Joe says, hey, Lisa and Zach, I hope you guys had a great weekend. I am looking forward to all the new stuff that will be coming out. Thanks for your hard work. God bless and be safe. Thank you, Filter Dog, who says, great follow on X at Japan _Nobunga. Sean Joe, thank you for the can. And then another can, and then a cookie. Filter Dog says, not sure what Democrats are so upset about with Michelle Obama being called a man when they have no idea what a woman is. That's actually a rather astute observation. Thank you also to Sean Joe for the cookie. Thank you to Season Pixels, who says, check your phone after the show. I have a goodie for you. I actually saw that, and that is the way that I have my my chat on screen right now. So I don't know that this is going to be different from that, but I'll try it after the show. Thank you. Trump Red Pill 1, thank you for the bronze tier subscription that was given to 8088Y Digital, Bobby Digital. Delia, thank you for the cookie. The federal investigation of Newsom started before January 20th, 2025. Yes, as I was saying, it's not coming from DOJ Maine. It is coming from the Sacramento office of the Department of Justice. And I would say that it began in concert with the investigation into his chief of staff, which, of course, began prior to President Trump coming in. And then they just picked it up right there, January 20th. There we go. All right. So moving on to the next piece, Raphael Warnock. Raphael Warnock is talking about, yeah, Independence 4576. I was like, what? I don't know where that came from. Raphael Warnock is telling everybody exactly what the Democrats are planning to do, as they have broadcasted so loudly in recent times. They're going to pack the courts. They're going to use the power of the government. They're going to weaponize it even more than they have already. Let's just hear it from him. Make sure that we know exactly what we're fighting against.
Because some of your
I got to turn this up.
colleagues and fellow Democrats are calling for adding additional seats to the Supreme Court. Would you support that? Would you vote to add additional seats to the Supreme Court, Senator?
I think we have to look at what's happening in our country because it's very serious. Donald Trump, in this most recent iteration, began this terrible race to the bottom that we're seeing with gerrymandering by calling into Texas and saying, I need 5 more seats. The Supreme Court then poured fuel on that fire, and with a vengeance, while people are literally casting their votes, we're seeing state legislatures led by craven politicians race to try to play with the lines, to jimmy-rig the outcome in order to make it impossible for ordinary American citizens to hold their elected officials accountable at a time where this economy is not working for us. And the Supreme Court continues to undermine its own credibility. I think that all options have to be on the table. We definitely need reform to this court. We need a code of ethics. And all options at this point have to be on the table.
So that includes adding seats and or term limits?
All options have to be on the table.
Okay.
Yeah, they plan to do whatever they can to hold on to as much power as they possibly can. And that is, again, one of the reasons why the administration understands that this is a do-or-die mission right now. Now, we are frequently asking questions about prosecutors and judges and, you know, when they put people in danger, why are they not being held to account? Well, Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones, Commonwealth Attorney for Fairfax County, Steve Descano, who recently testified in Congress, they have just been sued by the Department of Justice. They filed a lawsuit against them, and they are challenging the decisions they've made, letting pedophiles go free, and also going after civil rights, a whole host of things that the state of Virginia has done under a number of different jurisdictions. Now, this is Nick Minnick. He's a reporter for a local ABC affiliate in Washington, D.C., and he's discussing the substance of the lawsuit with the Department of Justice. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
The U.S. Department of Justice told me that Virginia's new anti-ICE laws aren't only unconstitutional, but they threaten public safety.
The DOJ's lawsuit challenges new anti-ICE laws the governor signed this year, including one that blocks police departments from entering so-called 287G agreements with ICE to strengthen cooperation.
We're not saying they're required to cooperate with us. We're saying that they should simply have the discretion to cooperate with ICE if they so choose.
The DOJ's lawsuit also challenges Virginia's making it a crime for federal agents to wear masks to protect their identity. Homeland Security reports a 1,300% increase in assaults and an 8,000% increase in death threats to ICE officers, and says those masks help protect them and their families.
And when you think about what federal agents typically do, these are typically operations that are pre-planned, and agents need to conceal their identities and operate undercover and meet with confidential informants and surreptitiously surveil suspects.
Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones, who is named in the lawsuit, said in a statement, quote, "We remain steadfast in our mission to protect Virginians' right to safe communities and transparent enforcement of the law." In addition to Jones and the governor, the lawsuit names Fairfax County Commonwealth's Attorney Steve Descano because he's the top prosecutor for the most populous county in the state. But DOJ tells me that's not the only reason.
We know that that Commonwealth attorney it likely will not hesitate to bring charges against federal agents. And so we will be asking a court to enjoin both the Attorney General of Virginia and this particular Commonwealth attorney from bringing charges against federal agents.
Former acting ICE Director Jonathan Fahey points to the unmasking law as problematic from a legal standpoint.
Well, it's already been shot down in California, so I have no doubt that it will not be successful in the state of Virginia as well. But there's so many problems that Virginia has right now.
That is a clear violation of the Supremacy Clause, and Governor Stamberger should know better. Certainly the people around her should know better. It's already been litigated in the Ninth Circuit, but it's also just inherently unconstitutional.
Now, Maryland has banned 287G agreements between local law enforcement and ICE. Assistant Attorney General Shoemate told me the DOJ is considering a challenge to that state law as well. Nick Minock, 7 News.
All right. So, of course, they're going to challenge. None of it will be successful. And hopefully these guys get taken down as quickly as possible. Now, Marion County Sheriff down here in Florida, Billy Woods, was giving a press conference on Thursday when a reporter attempted to hijack the press conference. This was about major child predator busts that were going on down here in Florida. Operation Bad Habits is the bust that they were talking about. It was a 6-day undercover operation that concluded in early June. It resulted in the arrests of 58 child predators. This is the largest sting operation of its kind in the history of Marion County. Detectives would pose online as children ranging from 7 to 15 years old. Sometimes they would also pose as their parents. They would lure these predators out to meet these children for illicit activities. The suspects would show up with everything you might expect them to show up if they were meeting an adult prostitute, as well as drugs and money, condoms, those sorts of things. Among those people who were busted was a second-grade teacher, a youth football coach, fathers of children, a high school student, both legal and illegal immigrants. And Sheriff Woods was not playing around when this reporter attempted to take over and ask about something else.
For the Attorney General and Colonel Howes, if we're able to ask a couple off-topic questions, specifically about the wrongful arrest of Lindsay Isaacs in Volusia County. I understand that she and her criminal attorney met with your office, Mr. Upmeyer, just a couple days ago. How did that meeting go? And do you think that Lindsay Isaacs deserves an apology? And what's the status of those 2 FHP troopers that are named in the civil lawsuit?
All right, so you just pissed me off. Now, I'll let him decide if he's going to answer your question. But all this shit, you want to ask him about some other case? We're talking about children. Now, if you're getting that from one of your people that typically is behind the phones that y'all have, wants you to ask that question, tell them to have the gonads to come here and ask me that question. That is what you need to be focused on.
To be fair, we did ask about that. And
it doesn't make a difference. I'm not here to talk about what FHP did. I'm here to talk about what they did, nothing else. Let's get that abundantly clear, because it happens. It happens to this poor man all the time. You want to go off on a tangent. This press conference is solely for those pieces of shit that are right there. Are we clear?
You get that, boy? Based. Absolutely love it. I don't know much about this particular sheriff, but Marion County sounds like a good place to be. All right, now I also wanted to play for you a clip from the result of another child trafficking bust that took place also down here in Florida. Where the heck did it go? Oh, gosh. Did I lost it? Ah, here it is. Here it is. This one was in Miami-Dade. Okay, so this time they did another child trafficking bust, and a whole bunch of different people showed up, including an Indian aerospace engineer and a number of other locals. But here, take a listen to this.
A college student, an aerospace engineer, and even a Miami-Dade County employee were all busted in an undercover human trafficking operation.
Would you consider setting a bond for Mr. Louis Starks for an ankle monitor? He is a county employee.
You really think he's going to have his job after this case?
Police say Krishawn Starks, a county employee, is one of those accused. Investigators say he responded to a fake online ad soliciting prostitution and called the number, where an undercover officer posed as a mother offering her 13 and 15-year-old daughters. Authorities say another suspect, an aerospace engineer, also called the ad. Police say all 15 defendants later met an undercover officer in places like a hotel, believing they would have sex with the underage girls. But when they entered the room, expecting to meet the girls, they were arrested.
I'm going to need you to have a seat. Chris, this is To Catch a Predator. Please take a seat.
Would you consider house arrest or a bond for him?
He's 43. I'm granting the
Also,
state's...
Judge, did you see what he brought with him?
Some suspects showed up empty-handed, but records show Marvin Torres arrived with a bag containing 18 condoms, lubricants, a razor, and several adult toys, including a whip.
Real piece of work. Real piece of work. Now, here is another such case. We're going to stay on immigration here for a little bit. The city of Newark, New Jersey got scammed by an Indian group. They claim to be representatives of an Indian state that didn't actually exist.
The city of Newark is admitting it got scammed. Earlier this year, Mayor Ras Baraka invited who he thought was the Hindu nation of Kailasa to City Hall for a...
The Hindu nation of Kailasa. That does not exist. And if you would have just done a quick Google search, you would have learned that there is no such place as the Hindu nation of Kailasa.
Cultural trade agreement and to become sister cities. But it turns out Kailasa isn't a real nation, but rather the invention of a scam artist and fugitive who's from India, who's been on the run since 2019. A few days after the papers were signed, City Council rescinded that agreement. City Hall says no money was exchanged in the deal to become sister cities.
They almost got him. Almost got him. But they would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for those meddling kids doing Google searches. All right. Anyways, another one. An Indian H-1B worker paid an Indian CEO for a job here in the United States. This contract worker paid his employer nearly $100,000 to keep the job in Michigan that had provided him with a path to a green card and citizenship. Sai Jitender Kalagara and Progress Solutions Incorporated recruited and hired the plaintiff, Rishi Misala. This is from a lawsuit. Then they successfully petitioned for him to join their team on an H-1B visa. Things were looking up for the plaintiff, but defendants then started demanding the plaintiff pay for his own salary. Defendants also refused to provide plaintiff any pay stubs, which are necessary for H-1B holders to transfer to a different H-1B employer unless the plaintiff paid them. Then when the plaintiff pushed back, they threatened him with ICE, threatened his father, and continued to refuse to pay him, essentially forcing him into slavery here in the United States. These acts constitute labor trafficking, forced labor, and document servitude are crimes. Breitbart has reported on similar examples of employers' ability to extort H-1B migrants as they work their way through multiple visa programs to get the big prize of a green card and legal immigrant status. The white-collar H-1B population is huge, roughly 750,000 contract workers, plus roughly 250,000 spouses on head work permits, H-4 EAD work permits. And the abuse is nationwide, routine, profitable, and deeply damaging to Americans who want decent salaries, working conditions, and career prospects. But in this case, Rishi entered as a postgraduate student, signed up for George W. Bush's 3-year optional practical training program in December of 2023. Like many Indians before him, Rishi jumped from the OPT program to the renewable mixed skill H-1B program in October of 24. But on the first day of his H-1B job at the company, Kalagara placed Rishi on the bench and told him they would not pay him while he was on the bench and demanded cash payments from Rishi. Yes, they demanded their employee pay the employer to issue payroll, which violates anti-benching H-1B laws. So, Progress, the organization, and Kalagara know that U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services require regular payrolls to be run for any extension or transfer of the H-1B application to another employer. Thus, by threatening to forego payroll, Progress and Kalagara were implicitly threatening Rishi with his immigration status. If they didn't run his payroll, Rishi would not be able to maintain, extend, or transfer his H-1B, and all the work he had done would be out the window. Rishi thus delivered approximately $8,800 in cash to Progress's Plano office under threat of losing his H-1B immigration status. Defendants owe Rishi at least $97,248.94 in unpaid wages and coerced payments. The lawsuit was filed in November of 2025. A company official told Breitbart News on June 12th that Kalagara was in India. Neither he nor the company responded to requests from Breitbart News, and I guarantee you they're probably not coming back to the United States. Each year, approximately 250,000 Indians get into the OPT program or the companion curricula practical training program, and roughly 80,000 more fight their way up the H-1B ladder. The competition is brutal for poor Indians, many of whom go deeply into debt, often with government-backed loans, so that they can fund their OPT work permits and their living costs in the United States. The debts are usually backed by mortgaged family property and cannot be paid off unless the Indian keeps a job in the United States. The payoffs can be huge, partly because some land very well-paid jobs in the tech sector, Fortune 500 companies, Silicon Valley. The elite jobs provide high salaries, social status, stock plans, homes, workplace allies, and cars, and also the opportunity to quietly sell the jobs held by American colleagues to the next wave of similar background Indian fortune seekers. It would be a career transformation for me, Indian student Ravi Bhushan told CBS News. You wonder why when an Indian takes over an American company, they immediately fire all of the Americans and then suddenly hire in only Indians. And that's because of this H-1B and OPT visa pipeline. They allow all of these people to, God, this is totally off. They keep these people coming into the United States, and then they get paid for it, and a lot of them are getting extorted, and people are working for free. Most Indians get sweatshop jobs in a pyramid of body shop subcontractors where they work long hours for low wages as leased workers to other Indian-run subcontractors, and their wages are kept low because of the multiple layers of cooperating subcontractor CEOs hire into the pyramid scheme. They skim the wages nominally paid by Fortune 500 companies. The layer system allows cooperating ethnic Indian CEOs to gain huge profits by importing desperate H-1B workers to underbid normal American contractors and their American professional workforce. This semi-secret pyramid scheme has pushed a generation of Americans out of IT careers and keeps at least 1 million submissive Indians laboring in their jobs that would otherwise be held by free-seeking American professionals. American media outlets have totally ignored this abusive industry practice for decades. Even then, it is right in front of their nose. And for example, ethnic Indian Chanel Kaul at CBS News reported on June 13th, Kishore Kandavali runs a software consulting company in Dallas where nearly half of his 380 employees have H-1B visas. According to Kandavali, there essentially isn't enough available U.S. talent in his sector. Bullshit. I call bullshit. News reports show that many thousands of skilled American professionals are being laid off by Fortune 500 companies, even as their subcontractors claim labor shortages and annually import at least 250,000 Indians via the various H-1B, H-4 EAD, L-1, J-1, and B-1 and B-2 programs. Don't forget about the OPT program that we started out talking about. And universities have no caps on H-1Bs, so they can hire literally their entire academic staff as H-1B, and they never have anybody who's going to tell them otherwise. Many Indians rationally accept the workplace abuse, and many buy into the way that the workplace abuse works, because the H-1B program allows Indian migrants to climb a career ladder all the way to U.S. residency and citizenship. In contrast, Americans can trump the abuser by simply finding another job. That prize is immeasurably valuable because it allows Indians to transform into independent American citizens and to grant their amazing transformation to their close family and all of their descendants. All of them become citizens of the United States, and the process just continues. Now, I saw this reported on over the weekend, and I could not find anything to show that it was really happening. Hold on, I gotta fix this. Why is that off so bad? Okay, so people on X were saying that Sir Sriram Krishnan, who is the former White House AI advisor, was found to have purchased his degree from that Indian degree mill that we spoke about last week. That was Manav Bharti University. This is the place that has reportedly sold 36,000 fake university degrees over the last 11 or 10 years. But the only problem is he did not go to that university. He did go to an Indian university, but it was SRM University, and they have publicly stated that he did actually get a real degree from there. There's not a whole bunch of talent coming out of that university, mostly cricket players and some film stars and stuff like that. But he does have a degree, and there is nothing that I could find to suggest that he had actually scammed his way into the administration. but he doesn't work there anymore anyways, so whatever. All right. We are going to go ahead and end it there because I've got to get ready for my show tonight, and I've got a lot of prep to do. Before we go, I will read the rest of the donations, and I do have a quick message from over here on Rumble. You guys have probably noticed Rumble is growing fast, and it's not going to be slowing down anytime soon. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. Well, now there's Rumble Premium. It's an easy way to upgrade your experience because with Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform. There's no pre-rolls, no interruptions. It's just the content that you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and even more from your favorite creators. And right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. To take advantage of that, you just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO when you check out. Once again, that's rumble.com/premium with the promo code STUDIO, or you can use that QR code on screen. No more ads, more freedom, and the content that you actually came for. That is the deal. Thank you very much to Rumble. All right, final thank yous over here. First of all, Unpilled Brewbark says, 117 gold pills. I'm visualizing a future with the Save America Act, the Insurrection Act, and the suspension of habeas corpus for all non-citizens. Oh, I can see it now. It's glorious. Yes, 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 Brewbark. I'm with you. All right, and then let's see. Jim Kyle says that POS has done nothing for Georgia. Yes, Raphael Warnock has done nothing for Georgia. G. Fontez says, interesting how Silicon Valley Bank donated to Newsom's wife when they closed in 2023. The same week, CNBC's financial hack Jim Cramer accused its stock as a buy. Yes, well, I mean, they definitely connected. G. Fontez, all deposit holders at Silicon Valley Bank were made fully whole for all of their deposits, insured and uninsured, as this was the most commonly used Silicon Valley wealth and for Newsom and Pelosi's families. Yes. With the Biden administration's Treasury and Fed's help, the FDIC created the Deposit Insurance National Bank of Santa Clara as a bridge bank to hold deposits to facilitate access during the receivership in 2 days. Surter says there was once a girl from Nantucket who had a penis and had to tuck it. Her hubby was gay. She took his booty all day, then got on his knees just circuit. Okay, there we go. That'll be all for today. Thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully you'll be there joining me tonight at 10:30 on Badlands Media for Baseless Conspiracies. But if not, then fully expect to see you right here tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another episode of Red Pill News Live. Until that time, good luck and God bless. Plus, Jesus is an earthling.